Hey guys, welcome to the internet. So one of the hardest things about running this channel, I don't have a whole lot of control over how good these stories are. Depending on the day, some days it's really easy to find some good stories, and some days I have to be just browsing for hours to find anything worth reading. So hopefully you like the stories I pick most days. Today we start out with, my mom wants me to become a stripper. So backstory, I have one brother and one sister. I'm a male. I'm the oldest of the bunch. My brother is about 2 years younger, and my sister is just about 1 year younger. At the time of this story, we all have pretty good income. Not tooting my own horn, but I honestly had the best. My sister had the worst. She was consistently borrowing money from either me or my mom. She didn't waste it on things like drugs, but she just didn't have enough income, and she had to pay a hefty amount of rent. So I knew my sister was looking for ways she could make more money. She was kind of desperate at this point. I was helping her out. She was intelligent enough for a better job. Then one day, I found her a solid-looking job and asked her if she wanted to go interview for it. She met all the requirements, but then she said no. I was pretty confused because why would you turn down something like that? But she didn't accept it, and then she quit the job she already had. So now I knew something had to be up. I came over to her place and asked her. She tried to deny everything at first, but then she just let loose. She kinda just regretfully told me she was trying out stripping. I was silent. I was thinking about it, and honestly, the thought that she might have done this had crossed my mind before. I didn't know whether to be mad or sympathetic. Since I'm a wonderful, kind person, I decided to not be mad. She begged me to not tell our mom, so I didn't. I just told her not to do anything stupid. And then, I kind of became her partner. I would drive her to places I shouldn't have been. I would make sure she got home alright. And I was the only one who knew what she did. I never really saw what she was doing, I just knew. Soon, our mom found out. I could say it was through my sister, but I honestly forgot how she found out, and my mom kind of freaked out. She called my sister all kinds of slutty slurs, calling her a failure, saying she would disown her. My sister was crying. It was bad. And then, everything changed when my sister told my mom about how much money she made. Although I don't like admitting it, it was more than what I made. Let me just say she made a lot. Like, a lot. My mother was dumbfounded. And then, wouldn't you guess, she became my mom's angel. She ignored all my sister did wrong, and focused on the money she had made instead. She would always brag about it to her relatives, saying she worked hard and deserved it. And the worst part? My mom now acted like I was a failure, and that I should make as much money as my sister. Makes me remember why I was so eager to move out. Now, let me say that my sister was incredibly supportive. She offered me a bunch of money. I declined most. I only accepted a bit for driving her and her favors. Nothing for no reason. So let's get that out of the way. Now, I was mad at my mom. I wouldn't talk to her if I didn't have to. I was disappointed that she felt like that. Made me embarrassed. My mom constantly bugged me. I should make more money. I should get a job like my sister. I should do as well as my sister. It was bad. How do you be proud of that? So yeah, that's what happened. Now my brother was kind of ignored throughout this, so she decided to focus on me. Which sucks, but Now a few months later, my sister quit that job. She found a better job and never had any bad accidents or things like drug addictions. Me and my sister remained friends throughout the whole thing, and now everyone just pretends to forget what happened. No, I don't blame her, not really. She needed the money, so she did what she did. Obviously, I don't encourage it, but she didn't spend her money on things like drugs and alcohol, so she kept her head level a bit. I blame my mom though, she was really annoying. Wait, didn't this storyteller say that he was male? Something tells me male strippers do not make nearly as much as female strippers would. Yet I don't see any outrage about that gender wage gap. But it is kind of strange that some people might just change their whole perspective on things when they start seeing a lot of money made from it. Often it's the jobs you wouldn't really expect that make the most money. Alright, next up we've got, I was an unintentional creep. So before I start, let me describe my physique. I'm a male, about 5'11", 210 pounds, pale as the freshly driven snow, and with long hair, down to the small of my back or so. A lot of people say I look like I belong in a death metal band, but that's besides the point. This story begins around last winter at the college I go to, during the fall semester. Mondays were the busiest day for me. I usually end up taking about 4 or 5 classes, so on those nights I would end up taking classes late at night, usually lasting until 10:30 or so. Then I would drive home. On this particular Monday night, I had parked further out in the parking lot, due to the fact that it's packed in the morning. My truck and a few other trucks and cars would be the only vehicles in the lot by this time of night. Anyway, I leave the class and head out into the lot, and I take out my keys. There was one student walking a good distance ahead of me. He was much taller than me, seemed like he could hold his own in a fight. However, he kept looking behind himself as if he thought he was being followed by someone sinister. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blows through my coat, and I take up a light jog to my truck. which is a couple of spaces away from this other student's. The student ahead of me suddenly stops short, then he sprinted to his car as fast as he can. I slowly get to my car, realizing that he must have seen me reach for my keys. Could he have been thinking the worst? I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about this evening encounter and feel bad for the guy. You know, I go for a lot of night walks, and let's just say most people aren't very open to socializing with random people they see walking around at night. But the one good tip I would recommend is if you ever see somebody that looks scary, always try and look scarier than them. I mean, obviously, you have no intent of attacking them, but you can make them think that you are, and then they'll stay away from you. It just makes avoiding people so much easier. Next up, we've got, you know I'm your boss, right? Entitled kid and entitled mom try to get me fired for not rewarding entitled kid's rudeness. That is a long intro. To preface this all, I used to work in an after-school care. So once the kids in my primary school had finished school for the day, around 3-ish, about 60 to 70 kids would then come over to our building and chill out until their parents came to pick them up at around 5:45. We would give them afternoon tea and then watch them as they pretty much just play games and do arts and crafts and such. A lot of the kids that we looked after were full-time kids, meaning that we had them 5 days a week, and most, if not all, of the holidays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., meaning that all in all, I'm spending a lot of time with other people's kids as sort of a pseudo-guardian parent role model. So using manners and general good behavior is extremely important to me as it helps to inform the rest of their lives. During my time here, I had an interesting run-in with an entitled parent and their equally, if not more, entitled son. Bear in mind that all this happened at least 4 years ago, so the details might be a bit hazy, but such an obvious lack of respect from both parents and children made this encounter stay in my mind. So me, playing with a soccer ball in the school hall with a few other kids, a kid comes up to me and grabs my shirt. He says, "Give me your ball." I say, sorry man, we're playing with it now." Points at the other kids. "But you can jump in the game if you want." He says, "I said, give me the ball." "Sorry kid, not with an attitude like that. However, if you want to join in the game with us, by all means." "You know I'm your boss, right?" "Excuse me?" He says, "Give me the ball now or I'll have you fired." So me, flabbergasted at a blatantly rude attempt at intimidating me. Once again, no deal, but thanks for playing. The entitled kid storms off, and I think nothing of it, until later, closer to home time. The entitled parent joins the battle and confronts me. "Why did you steal the ball off my son? What the heck were you thinking?" I said, "Oh, is that what he told you?" "No, I was already playing the game with a group of kids when he demanded that I give them the ball that we were playing with. Now, had he asked me nicely and used his manners, I would have considered it, and I would have started a different game. However, I don't reward disrespect and rudeness here." So, "He doesn't have to use his manners. You're getting paid to do whatever you have to keep him happy. You've ruined his day and mine. Well, I hope you're happy. I'm going to have a word with your supervisor. You're not fit to look after children." At this point, I'm pretty incessant about being told that I'm not fit to look after children, so I go off on this lady. I say, "Me? Listen, lady, I don't reward bad behavior. If you don't like how I do things around here, then by all means, there is a fine after-school establishment up the road that will be more than happy to accommodate you and your family. Bear in mind, no one would put up with such rude behavior." She says, "How dare you? We've been here for years. You can't talk to me like that." She storms off and starts talking to the supervisor. So the supervisor, a very fair, kind of firm lady, doesn't have a bar of it, though, as this is the first time the entitled kid has been acting up. The supervisor calmly explains to the parent that she supports my decision and that if they indeed do have a problem, then they should try the other after-school care problem up the road. We had a waiting list of about 30 kids, so replacing them wouldn't even be an issue. The entitled parent, after finding out that there were higher chances of being kicked out of the program rather than being fired, stormed out of the office with entitled kid in tow. This wasn't my first battle with crappy parents, and it certainly wasn't my last. I'm glad I didn't get fired as well. See, when a business has more customers than they can handle, the customers have no leverage. And also, when you're a terrible customer and you threaten, "Maybe I'll take my business elsewhere," they're thinking, "Oh, please do. Please go bother my competitors instead." So next we have, entitled person wants their ice only at the bottom of their drink. So talking with my sister about insane customers just reminded me of this story. This happened about a year ago when I used to work at Starbucks. So I'm at the front working the cash register and enter the entitled idiot customer. I was like, "Hi, welcome to Starbucks. What can I get for you today?" "Can I get a Tazo iced passion tea with the ice on the bottom?" I was like, "Sure. Wait, I'm sorry, what?" "I want an iced tea with all the ice on the bottom." I'm sorry, but that's not possible." "Excuse me? Why not?" Well, the low density of ice makes it so that it floats in liquid, so I can't really make it stay at the bottom. I can fill the entire cup with ice so that there's some at the bottom." No, I don't want that much ice. I just want it at the bottom. I say, I can't guarantee that it will stay at the bottom, but I can put it there. So they get super huffy, clearly annoyed by my incompetence. Okay, whatever. So I make the drink, put it on the ready counter, and the ice floats to the top of the drink like a freaking boss. Oh, you want your ice to sink to the bottom? I mean, we could put rocks in them, I guess. That might make them sink. You know, I've never really gone into a restaurant trying to, really defy the laws of physics when making my order. Alright, our final story before the question is... Dad accidentally taps Entitled Mom's car with his car door. Entitled Mom loses all sense of sanity in about 0.2 seconds. So this happened like 6 to 8 years ago, so it's a little fuzzy in my brain. So I went to Walmart with my dad on a Friday afternoon, so you already know it's going to be a hectic trip. We eventually managed to get a decently close parking spot right next to another open one. I kid you not, before my dad even turned the engine off, this 20-something-year-old woman pulls right next to us. And I mean right next to us. She left my dad about 2 to 3 feet of space to get out of the car. So he tried his hardest, but my dad is not a small man, and the door of our black car hits her white car. Not hard enough to scratch or dent it, but it leaves a little black paint on her door. I've gotten out of the car by this point, and I'm standing, waiting for him, when this lady, who apparently has super hearing, comes running around and sees my dad making sure it was just paint on her door and not a scratch. She says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I tried not to hit you, but I think there was just some paint right there." "What is wrong with you? Can't you open a door properly?" My dad is standing at an angle to not be squished by the two cars and continues apologizing, even though it was kind of her fault for parking so close. He says, "It's just a little bit of paint. You can get it off with some cleaning stuff here." She says, "Give me your insurance information so you can pay for the damage you did to my car." He says, there's no damage. It's just a bit of paint. If you like, I can buy some cleaning stuff inside and help you get it off." "And give you a chance to get away without paying for the damage you did to my car? No way. I'm calling the police and suing you for emotional distress." So I'm scared at this point because I was just an 8-year-old who has nightmares about the purple pie man from Strawberry Shortcake. So I go up to my dad and sort of cuddle up to his side. My dad says, "Do you mind lowering your voice a little? You're scaring my daughter." "Well, you ramming into us traumatized my little angel. Now give me your insurance information or I'm calling Child Protective Services and telling them that you abuse your kid." So there was a little boy, maybe 5 or 6, sitting in the back seat, blissfully unaware of his mom's temper tantrum and playing with his action figures. After some more yelling and threats to call CPS and the cops, my dad just gave up and decided to give her his information, even though she had no damage to her car that couldn't be fixed at home. He says, "Ma'am, please calm down. I'm happy to pay you for any car problems related to this. But please stop yelling." She calmed down a little at the word pay and happily looked at my dad's insurance info, but blew a gasket when he started calling our insurance guy, who happened to be a close family friend. She says, "What are you doing?" She says, "I'm just calling my insurance provider and letting him know what's happening so he can come down and take a picture of the damage for the records." She says, "No, if you do, I'm calling the police and telling them all about how you stole this little girl." So I was adopted and looked nothing like my parents. My dad is used to people acting rude about it, but this was the final straw for him after dealing with this lady for 5 to 10 minutes at this point. He says, "Ma'am, I've given you everything you've asked for. Now please leave me and my daughter alone, or I will call the police and tell them that you verbally abused me and my daughter, and left your young child alone in the car on a hot summer day." He says, "Are you threatening me? I swear, if you even..." "I'm sorry that you feel threatened, but I offered to help and get your paint off your door, and you refused. I apologized many times, and you refused. You screamed at me and my daughter over a little bit of paint. Now please, let's just go do our shopping in peace, shall we?" I think she started yelling again after that, but my dad just took my hand and went inside to do our shopping. Never heard a word from the insurance guy, and the lady's car was gone by the time we got back. My dad later told me that he should have taken her plate number in case she did anything to our car after we left, but luckily everything was good. This seems like the kind of person that's just trying to get away with insurance fraud, that says, "Oh boy, somebody hit my car, now I can file a claim and get tons of money out of it." But let's get on to the question of the day, which is, lawyers of Reddit, at what point when working for a defendant did you realize, my client is a monster? We had a client try to enforce post-employment restraint against a 19-year-old receptionist after she quit and started working for a competitor. The reason? He wanted to make her life hell because she wouldn't sleep with him, a creepy 57-year-old man. Him trying to sleep with her was the reason she quit. Unsurprisingly, he didn't take our advice to discontinue his claim, and so we ended up sending him elsewhere. Man, I don't know how these criminal defense attorneys actually do this. There'd be so many times if I were in this position, I'd just be like, well, I mean, you're obviously guilty. I don't really see how we're going to get you out of this. I'll go ahead and say it. When I practiced family law and criminal defense, I trusted and believed my criminal defense clients 100 times more than my divorce and custody clients. The worst monsters are the people who manipulate minor children for custody reasons. Screw them. Luckily, I'm out of that area of law, hopefully for good. Yeah, I think that what makes divorce cases so much more ugly than a lot of criminal defense cases is that in a criminal defense, it's like there's one story, it's pointed at one person, and he's just trying to defend himself. But when it comes to like these divorce and custody cases, it's all about, you know, two parents with their own stories, and they're both trying to play up the victim card as much as possible, trying to get sympathy points, and just trying to lie any way they can to get what they want out of it. So I could definitely see those being unpleasant. I had a client who was accused of domestic violence. Essentially, he threw his girlfriend out of a second-story window. Now he's got a terrible history, but so do a lot of my clients, and his attitude is a little entitled. Also typical. But he also knows the deal and wants a plea deal. So I'm not really prepared when he absolutely refuses the no jail offer from the state. Keep in mind, there were like 5 witnesses. Why? Because they wanted him to pay for her medical bills. Okay, an a-hole, but whatever, not the worst. What did it was his counteroffer. I ain't paying for that bitch's bills. Tell them I'll pay for the window. The prosecutor was not happy. Unfortunately, that's all the responses I pulled because most of the responses were really dark and graphic. So if you want to hear some pretty disturbing stories, go check out that thread on your own, but I'd rather just keep those parts off my channel. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good weekend, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow.